Found them. Ooh. Got it. I got it. Yes. You got it. I think you, by George. I think you've got it.
Go time? All right. All right. We're good to go? All right. Welcome everybody to our monthly meeting in person since the Eaton fire. So we're happy to be here. We're happy that Debs, the Audubon Center, Debs Park, let us be here. And to begin with, for the folks here in person, we have cookies, homemade cookies from Learden that are delicious. So please help yourself. Welcome, welcome. We have a student here, Lupita, who is taking in, she's from Cal State, and she's, oh, there she is right there. She's in an anthropological film class on collective identities, and she chose Pasadena Audubon as the organization where people have a collective identity and their interest in birding. And she wanted to get some B-roll footage for her documentary. It's not going to be public. It's not going to be on the internet in any way. It's just for class. But if anybody is interested, they don't mind being in the bee footage, just let her know. If you don't want to be in it, let her know as well. Once again, it's not going to be made public by any means. And I think you're also going to do 1 or 2 interviews afterwards for anybody who might be interested in talking about their interest. There you go. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, and now let's get into what we've been up to. First off, our Hummingbird Cantina. If you haven't heard about our Hummingbird Cantina, it's at the Gamble House. The Gamble House was so kind in taking us in. We were originally going to be at the Eaton Canyon Nature Center. Obviously, that didn't work out, and the Gamble House, almost a week after the Eaton fire, said, please, we'd love to have you. And so it's been wonderful. We have I think 12 or 13 volunteers who refill and clean the hummingbird feeders daily. It's been excellent working with them and the Gamble House team as well. And we've made some news. It's been in the local news. It's been in NBC4's and in Pasadena Star News as well. So we're just really grateful. And lastly, it's obviously open and free to the public every day. But if you want to do a more in-depth sort of birding there, there's the Deb Tamaro, who's one of our board members. She'll be hosting a bird sit at the Cantina on April 12th and May 10th from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. But once again, it's really peaceful if you just want to take a little bit of time and sit up there. They have a bench. It's a really great place to sit and do some birding. All right, next we have the Theodore Payne Foundation Native Garden Tour. And this is a way to promote native gardens to the folks in our area in Los Angeles and get them inspired to think about native gardens in their backyards. So we have, of course, our native plant garden in Washington Elementary. Alexi Bolton, she replaced Evelyn Rosas for this school year. And she's taken over along with the San Gabriel Valley Conservation Corps. They've been maintaining the garden. Alexi's been teaching the students. They collectively have been doing a fantastic job. There was a lot of ash and debris from the fires, and they have done some great work cleaning that up, remulching, taking care of the plants after quite a beating from the fires. So if you want to come see or you want to support, we're always looking for volunteers. If you want to come for an hour or two, please let us know, and we'll hook you up with Alexi to run it, or not run it, sorry, but participate in running it. And the 2025 Native Plant Garden Tour is on April 5th and 6th, and you can go to nativeplantgardentour.org to sign up and get your tickets. And I think they sell out rather quickly, so I would jump on that tonight, tomorrow. But if you wait till April 1st, I think it would be all sold out. That's generally how it happens. This is a great thing that the Milk Farm in Eagle Rock is doing. If you've never been to Milk Farm, I used to go there all the time when I lived in Eagle Rock. It's a great artisan cheese shop, but they're doing this even greater thing, which is 100% of their proceeds are going towards, so sorry, let me go back a little bit. Now through the end of March, while supplies last, Toma Provence cheese, I'm guessing, does anybody know how to pronounce it more French-like? Toma Provence cheese at Milk Farm Cheese Shop. 100% of the proceeds will go towards rebuilding the Eaton Canyon Nature Center. So this is a great thing that they're doing. And you can also, of course, make Eaton Canyon Nature Center restoration donations directly to the Los Angeles County Parks Foundation. They're on Colorado Boulevard, right in like the downtown area of Eagle Rock. Okay, field trips. The spring migration is on. We have a lot of great field trips coming up. The best thing to do, I could stand here all night and tell you about all of them, but instead I'm just going to direct you to pasadenaaudubon.org/field trips, and you can come birding with us. Birds and Beers. This is next Wednesday. This is the last Wednesday of every month. Birds and Beers. It's Wednesday, March 26th, next Wednesday from 5 to 8 p.m. This is a great thing at the Wild Parrot Brewing Company if you've never been. And it's just a hangout thing for us birders to chat, except this last month, I don't know if you heard, but we had a bird poetry contest. And we had some really great bird poetry written by some of our members. What we're doing this month is a bird call bingo. So come and see what your bird call knowledge is. And of course, Wildfire Brewery donates $1 for every pint. And Helen, did you want to talk at all about this? About this is the Hahamunga Habitat Project. This is the Hahamunga Watershed Park in Pasadena. They're doing more restoration work. Of course, the next workday is Sunday, April 13th from 8 a.m. And it's the removal of invasive plants. So we always need your help to nurture native plants in the Hahamung Natural Area. So bring your tools or share with others. And you can email Darren Dow, dow.darren@yahoo.com. You can also find this on our website, I believe, or our e-blasts, and that will direct you to how to contact to participate. My April monthly meeting is coming up. Chris, do you want to say anything about that?
Hi, folks. Next month's meeting, as you can see on the screen, is about the yellow-billed cuckoo, which I think is one of the greatest birds, one of the prettiest birds in California. Forever, they've been an integral part of riparian habitats in California, and they have really suffered a lot. Their numbers are down as much as 90% from what they were, not that many decades ago, for a million reasons, everything from habitat destruction to West Nile virus to climate change. The folks at the Southern Sierra Research Station are probably the preeminent people here in California working on studying and preserving and trying to bring back yellow-billed cuckoos. So if you're a cuckoo fan, and how could you not be? This is going to be a great talk. Unclear yet if it's going to be live or Zoom or both, but keep checking the e-blast from us at Pasadena Audubon and on the website, and we'll let you know. But that's what's coming up a month from now. And
then I'm going to have you stand up here and talk about tonight's speakers.
Yes, and now on to tonight's speakers. First of all, I want to say we have a huge crowd for us on Zoom, which is great, and it could very well be because they loved you so much the last time you were here. Tammy and Dave McQuade are there are big ear birders, and then there are Tammy and David McQuade. Everyone else has enough sense to do a big year once and then stop. No, not these two. Year after year after year, they are traveling the country, the hemisphere, looking for as many birds as possible. And part of those travels have taken them to Hawaii, where they have seen amazing birds. They're going to which will show tonight and talk about what it's like to bird in Hawaii, what some of the problems are with the threat to birds in Hawaii, and we're just totally thrilled to have the two of you back again. So everyone, please, at home and here, welcome Dave and Tammy McQuade.
Want us to put it on or?
Here's your.
I think it needs to go on this side.
Oh,
I decided. It'll be fine. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, we just want to thank everyone for having us back to talk to you all about something we're very passionate about. We've been to Hawaii actually 4 times in the last, I think, 5 years. So we've done quite a bit of birding there comparatively. It's a beautiful place and it is rapidly changing. The exotics are kind of taking over the islands and the endemics, unfortunately, are disappearing. And so if you take anything from this talk, it's if you're going to go to Hawaii, you need to go sooner than later. So just want to thank you all again. And so we fly into Honolulu when we fly from Fort Myers. It's a very long trip for us. Not so bad from California. And when we bird there, we're going to bird Oahu. We bird Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island. And so that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Hawaii, of course, is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's actually closer to Adak, Alaska than it is to Los Angeles. The location kind of affords it some interesting birds. The endemics that are there are just fabulous. But once you get the exotics and all of the tourists and ships that bring all of the bad things onto the islands, it's really has an impact on what's going on there.
Basically, since when we look at Hawaii as a whole, there were originally 113 endemic birds to Hawaii that are known to man. However, once humans arrived, from the time that humans arrived initially on the islands, we've seen about 71 of those go extinct. Unfortunately, about 50 of those have gone extinct since Captain Cook arrived in 1778. And as a lot of y'all know, recently, a little over a year ago, we had 8 birds that were removed off of critically endangered to extinct. These are the 8 birds that are now considered to be gone. So it's very, very sad, very unfortunate. But again, the story really doesn't end there. As we go through and we look at it, these birds here are all classified by the International Union for Conservation of Nature as being vulnerable to extinction. Now, fortunately, when we look at that list, Tammy and I can say that we've seen and photographed all of the birds on that list. And today, if you were to go to Hawaii, I would say there's a strong probability that you can go see all of these birds too still. Then there are birds that are classified as endangered. These are a little bit different. These are the Akia palau, the Hawaii akepa, Hawaii creeper, Hawaii duck, the subspecies of the short-eared owl out there, the Maui alawio. The lace-on finch is one that we can't realistically get to. Only researchers are allowed on that island. So again, this is one that we've never seen, and realistically, probably nobody in this room will ever see unless you're a researcher. Newell shearwater and Oahu elapaio. So the lace-on finch is the only one we have not seen yet. And again, for the most part, if you go at the right places, which we're going to talk about, these are all still birds that you can get to. Which then brings us to the birds that are critically endangered. And these are the akeke, the akakiki, the akoikoi, the Maui parrotbill, the nihoa finch, the nihoa millerbird, the palila, and the puaioi. And it took us many, many months of practice to be able to say each one of those words. The nihoa finch and millerbird are, again, on islands that are only accessible to researchers and to people that are natives that are going there to practice cultural practices, basically. And both of them have to get permits from the US government to be able to go on nihoa. So again, the reality is none of us will ever make it there to see those 2 birds. Fortunately, the rest of the birds Tammy and I have been able to see. But what's sad is the akakiki has now, for all practical purposes, I would probably consider it to be extinct in the wild. There possibly still could be a couple around, but the wildlife division out there has been trying to collect the akakiki and to basically take them into protective custody to try and keep them from going extinct. Best guess as of right now is there's about 41 of them actually in captivity, trying to preserve the species. The Hawaiian crow actually has about 110 to 120 that are in captivity. So there are none in the wild. Akakiki, possibly one or two that are still around in the wild, but at this point in time, I would say the odds are not very high that there are any left in the wild. But there is hope for the remaining birds in Hawaii. As we go through and we look at it, there are several causes for why the bird population there has collapsed. And part of it, as Tammy was saying, it's the impact that humans have had. You know, we've had ships coming over with Captain Cook that had mongoose and stuff like that on it. They ran rampant through the islands and basically loved to eat bird eggs. This trap over here is a mongoose trap. And again, supposedly they're making great headway in basically extirpating the mongoose. However, I can tell you that the last 3 trips we've had there, I've still seen mongoose on the islands. So they're still running around. I have not seen any rats. And these are both rat traps that they have here. This is just your traditional black box, sticky stuff in there. Rat goes in there, gets stuck and dies. This is a little bit more sophisticated item where it's actually got a CO2 cartridge. They bait it underneath it, and the rat goes underneath, and the CO2 cartridge sends out basically a hammer and conks the rat on the head and kills it. And it can go ahead and kill up to about 20, 25 rat per CO2 cartridge. So kind of an interesting thing. And again, we saw all of these while hiking. And you see them, you know, especially in some of the more important areas, you'll see a lot of these traps out there. However, rats, cats, and mongoose are not the only problem that we've got in Hawaii right now. There's something called rapid ohia death. And there are 2 main types of trees in Hawaii that are critical to native birds in Hawaii. And that's the ohia tree and the koa tree. And what's happening is there's a fungus that's getting tracked into these parks, and it's killing the ohia tree. So what you're seeing now is that when you go into a lot of these places that are still fairly pristine, and even some of the ones that really have no native vegetation left, you go in and they have a bottle of alcohol, and they make you spray the bottom of your shoes. If you've got a hiking stick, you spray the bottom of that. You know, if you're planning on sitting down, you'll spray your butt. If you have a backpack, you spray the backpack in case you set the backpack down. Everything gets sprayed to make sure that you kill any fungus or bacteria that could be tracked into these places. So again, this is something that they're doing their best to try and protect it, because if the plants go, the birds are going to go. But at least they now know, and they're doing their job to try and protect the plants. However, all of that, in my opinion, kind of pales in comparison to the problem we have with avian malaria. And again, Hawaii, being in the middle of nowhere, had no mosquitoes until man arrived and brought the mosquitoes with it. And what's happened is these birds, especially these honey creepers, they have no natural resistance to mosquito bites. And they contract avian malaria fairly easily, and they die. And what's happened is with global warming, the temperatures are starting to nudge up a little bit, which is allowing the mosquitoes to rise. So you get into some of the islands that have lower elevations, and there's nowhere for the birds to go. The mosquitoes have gotten to the top of the island, and it's killed off a lot of the birds. So it really kind of got to the critical stage several years ago. And in 2023, they started a process. It was very controversial, but they started a process of releasing male mosquitoes infected with the Wolbachia bacteria. And again, I am not a biologist by trade. So again, I'll tell you the best that I understand it. Basically, if you take a male mosquito, male mosquitoes do not bite anything. It's the female mosquito that bites. So they release male mosquitoes that are infected with the Wolbachia bacteria, they will go and breed with the female mosquito in the wild, and the eggs don't hatch. They're not viable. So they have literally, over the last year and a half, released, as of, I think it was June of last year, they had released over 10 million male infected mosquitoes, with the idea that the typical male mosquito only lives a week. The typical female mosquito only lives about 3 to 4 weeks. So the idea is, if they can go ahead and have these mosquitoes breeding and the eggs don't hatch, the mosquito population will plummet, giving the birds a chance. This is something that a lot of the birders in Hawaii have been begging for years, and they finally just started doing it. Now, again, this is a very expensive proposition, because every week they're going and they're airdropping 250,000 mosquitoes. That's not cheap, but hopefully they can keep it up. And I'm hoping that we get 2-3 years down the road and we're going to start to see some major improvement. But this is all about forest birds. We're also having some issues with the seabirds there. Again, there are a lot of seabirds that nest on the islands of Hawaii. And the population in Hawaii has really exploded. And what you're seeing now is, because of all of the development, all the building, you've got telephone lines, you've got power lines everywhere. And I sit there and think back to our first birding trip that we made there back in 2019, and you didn't see these reflectors. But there are several organizations that have hired people and are paying people to literally go up and down the power lines up on the mountains and look for dead birds, because that's telling them where the flight path is that the birds are coming up the mountain. And then they put these reflective diverters, or these LED diverters on the wire. And it's funny, we've made some night trips up the mountain to get early starts, and you'll see these reflectors, all over the place, basically flashing, saying, "Don't fly here." And it's making a huge impact. I talked to one of the guys in charge of that project 2 years ago, and he said it's making a huge impact because of the fact that now the birds are just knowing to fly over it and not into it. So again, this is having a huge impact, and I think will continue to. And just between 2022, or between 2023 and 2024, I was shocked at how many more reflectors and diverters had been put up. So they're really going to town with trying to mark all the locations to protect the seabirds as they go up the mountains, to spend the night and to feed their young.
Okay, so the first island we're going to talk about is Oahu, and some of our favorite birding locations on Oahu. Did anything happen? There we go. Kapiolani Park, which is downtown Waikiki, full of exotics, but great views of all of the exotics. The Aiea Ridge Trail up in the mountains. This is where you're going to get your endemic species on Oahu. The Kahuku Golf Course, well known for the bristle-thighed curlew that spend their winters there. We also do a sea watch there, so it's kind of a twofer with that particular location. And then a location that some of you might not think about is the Cultural Garden in the Oahu Honolulu Airport. It is a really beautiful little park right in the middle of the airport. It's exposed, birds can fly in. We've had over 11 species of exotics in that little park. So it's, it's a nice diversion, especially if you're have a little layover in between some of the islands. Oahu does have endemics. The two endemics are the Oahu Elapaio and the Oahu Amakihi. And these are both found on the Aiea Trail. We've gotten them every time we've been there, although you really have to look. The Oahu Elapaio is endangered. The population has declined by 50% according to what I've been able to find since 1990. there's fewer than 1,200 birds left. This bird is a little more difficult to find. There are Elapayo on the other islands that are endemic to each of those islands as well. Those seem to be a little easier to get, but I really think that the population explosion, invasion of habitat on Oahu has really affected this bird. It's a monarch flycatcher, and just a sweet little bird. We've enjoyed them on all the islands. The Oahu amakihi is also endemic. It's a honey creeper, and it is found on the Aiea Trail as well. There are some specialties on Oahu that you don't get anywhere else. The white terns. They're actually in downtown Waikiki, right in Honolulu. They perch on the trees right over top of the road. Population explosion does not seem to have affected them at all. They could care less. You can walk right underneath the tree and they kind of look at you. They're nesting right there. Doesn't seem to affect anything. Best place to see them though is probably the Kapiolani Park, because it's a wide open space and you can see them flying over there. Bristle-thighed curlew are at that golf course that I was showing you on the island. There's actually a 9-hole golf course, has a really run-down clubhouse that I think has been condemned. So when you pull up there, you think, I must be in the wrong place. They have it gated at night, but they do allow people to go in there. There is a walking trail. And you walk down this trail till you come to an old cemetery on one side and the golf course on the other. And the bristle-thighed curlew are all perched up on the tombstones in the cemetery. So kind of a unique place to see the birds. These birds actually spend their winter in Hawaii. And Dave and I, we go to Alaska every June. We go up to Nome and down Cougar Rock Road. You can see bristle-thighed curlew on their breeding grounds displaying. So they're spending their summers in Alaska and their winters in Hawaii. And these birds have figured it out. So really, really neat birds to see. We do an evening, we go to the cemetery in that area to see these birds kind of late afternoon, and then we go and we do a sea watch in the ocean there, and we get petrels and boobies and shearwater. And so we do that kind of late in the day. And then as we're walking back through the golf course, it's at night, and we have flashlights, because you have to be careful you don't step on the wedge-tailed shearwaters. They're all over the ground. They've made burrows in this area, so during breeding season, you'll get to hear and see little chicks out, and they are totally not afraid of you at all. You can walk right up to them. You would have to move them out of your way if you didn't have a way around them, because they just kind of sit there and look at you. So, but it's a great way to see wedge-tailed shearwater.
Maui is one of the islands. If you could only go to 3 islands, this would not be one of them. But there is some birding on the island, that you need to know about. And the 2 main places to bird are Hosmer Grove and Waikamoi Preserve. Now, Waikamoi is an interesting place. It's owned by the Nature Conservancy. It's like 5,900 acres approximately, if I recall, up on the side of Haleakala Crater. And it has 2 incredible endemics. Historically, the problem, though, has been that the Nature Conservancy would only allow 6 people per month into the preserve. They would open up a website 30 days before the date of the trip, and you had to have the fastest fingers in the world to get in. And apparently, we finally did have fast fingers, and we made it in. We went in on September 9th, 2023, and it is on the side of the mountain that is the rainy side of the mountain. Perfectly clear until we got about a mile away, and then the heavens opened up, it poured rain the entire time we were there. But we got in, and again, you go in there to basically see two birds. You want to see the Akoi, which is about an 8-9 inch bird, just, stunning bird, really cool call. And you go in to see the Maui parrotbill. And I'm going to actually play for you real quick here the song of a Maui parrotbill, just so you can kind of see what it sounds like. That is the song of a Maui parrotbill. Again, a bird that is in severe decline, as is the Akoi. There's a little over 1,000 Akoi. There is substantially fewer Maui parrotbills. When we were in there, we could hear these two birds singing. We actually had at one point, never fails, the boardwalk is about this wide, so you don't have a lot of maneuverability. You're a couple of feet off the ground, so you got to be careful that you don't fall off and fall over. And we're walking this way. Tammy turns around, and an Akoi landed right behind her on the boardwalk. By the time we got our camera up, it was gone.
But we saw it.
We got to see it, and we heard several singing. We had a Maui parrotbill that flew into a tree, but there were a total of 7 of us, including the leader of the trip, and we were kind of on the ends, so we couldn't get a good photograph. The guy that was in the middle did get a photograph of the Maui parrotbill. Again, 2 incredibly rare, incredibly great birds. The problem is, I believe we were the last group to actually go into Waikamoi. And I talked to the leader that took us in there, and I asked him, I said, I heard that they closed it down. What's going on? He said, I have no idea. All I know is they said, our tours are closed. We're not doing any more. So I thought, okay, let's give it some time. So about a month ago, knowing that our talk was coming up, I emailed twice to Waikamoi and just said, hey, what's the status? Can you get in and see the birds? And they said, no, we're currently closed indefinitely. We're not sure when we will open back up. So unfortunately, at this point, I don't know if or when you'll be able to get back in. This is one of the islands that they are dumping tons of Wolbachia infected mosquitoes out there, hoping to try and improve the situation. Again, we'll see what ultimately happens, but it was closed all of last year. It's closed now. So basically, Waikamoi for right now is off the table, which leaves us to Hosmer Grove. Oh, sure.
I don't know why. I've had this problem before. It's just very.
Just a second here.
Maybe it's doing like noise canceling or something.
Okay, bear with me a second here. I just lost my recording on it. And okay, here we go. Getting close. Again, it's kind of sad when you think about the fact that for a lot of people, they may never hear that in the wild. And the reality is we may have been the last group of people, besides the biologists that run the place, to actually be able to go in and hear it. Hopefully, fingers crossed that we will be able to get people back in there again. And hopefully, releasing these mosquitoes will help to go ahead and eliminate the avian malaria issue. But as we go to right next door is a place called Hosmer Grove. This is an area that you can go camping in. And there is a nature trail that is a whopping 4/10 of 1 mile long. Pretty flat. Anybody can do the hike. And basically, as you get about to the halfway point on this hike, you're going to come to this overlook. You'll know you're at the overlook when you see this sign. When you see this sign, you stop, and this is where you stand and bird. Very simple. And again, it's the best place on Maui to go ahead and bird. It's the only place at this point in time, it's the only place that we could go and get a Maui Aloeo. Again, in Waikamoe, you could go in there and get 10, 15 of these. If you go ahead and spend maybe, quarter of a day, half a day at Hosmer Grove, you'll probably pick up 1 or 2, maybe 3 of these. Most we've ever had there, I think, was 3. But again, you will get them at Hosmer Grove. It's also a very easy place to get your EEV. And again, when a lot of people think of birding in Hawaii, they think of that EEV with that big, hooked bill, red bird, with black on it, just a stunning bird. Again, you usually can see EEVs there fairly easily. It's a great place to get Hawaii amakihis there, and another pretty bird, an apapane. So again, you can get some good endemic birds at Hosmer Grove with very modest effort, other than just standing there and waiting at the sign. So that's basically how you want to bird Maui.
Okay, Kauai. Why they call it the Garden Island? That's because it is very lush and green, but it also has a lot of rain. So that's why it's so lush and green. We're going to talk about some of our favorite spots there. Kilauea Point National Wildlife Refuge, Hanalea National Wildlife Refuge, Port Allen Sea Watch, the Mohihi Trail, and the Kokee State Park. So these are the locations that we bird when we go to Kauai. The Mohihi Trail is not usually open to the tour groups because it is a very difficult trail. We did it the first time in 2019, and we did it during rainy season at the end of December. And you can see I'm up to my waist at some points trying to cross the stream, the trail. This is actually like straight uphill. I'm having to hold on to the exotic ginger plants that line the trail to try to hold on to keep from sliding back down. It's like nasty, slimy, smelly mud. It's a pig trail that you're on, literally. I mean, there's literally pigs use it. The native people will hunt there for the pigs. And it was just a nightmare to get up there. It took us all day, and we made it to the halfway point at 2.5 miles. Now, on the way up, we did get to see the Akeke and the Pu'e-Aohi, but it was such a treacherous trail that neither one of us could take our cameras out of our backpacks because we were slipping and sliding and falling, and it was just a nightmare. And we made it up to the halfway point. 5 miles up is the top. And we had to turn around because it was we needed to get back before dark. And we were celebrating getting these 2 birds. I took my eye off the trail. I fell and I broke my ankle. So I'm hiking down 2 miles on a broken ankle. So it was not my favorite spot to bird in the whole world. In fact, I told Dave, I will never bird there again. Don't ever ask me to go back there. I will never go back there. So we went back in 2022. In 2022, we were on the island, and our friend and guide, Mandy Talpas, got a phone call from one of the biologists that was collecting akakikis that they had finished for the year and that there was an akakiki at the top at the 5 mile mark that was being very visible and cooperative. And if she wanted to see this bird before they were completely taken out of the wild, she needed to do it within the next probably few days, because then we were going back into rainy season and it was going to be a nightmare. And of course, Dave gave me this puppy dog look and said, oh, you know, we don't have to go. But we made the trip up, and obviously you can see from the picture on September 4th of 2022, we made it up to the 5 mile mark. Now, it was dry season this time.
Big difference.
So big difference. However, there was also a big difference in the birds. And it wasn't because it was wet season and dry season, it's because the birds are disappearing. We didn't see nearly as many akeke, pueaiohi. There were very few iivis, apapane, amakihis. I mean, the population had definitely gone down. We did get up to the top at the 5 mile mark. We did get to see the akakiki. We got good photos. The bird kind of acts like a woodpecker. They don't have woodpeckers, but it pecks at the bark and eats the insects and stuff from around the bark. And this was the last one that was up at that area. Now, since then, I believe that they have captured this bird and it is now in captivity. We actually went back in 2023, again during dry season, and it was even worse up there. So these birds are being seriously affected by, in particular, the avian malaria is the real problem. It's making its way up to the heights of these mountains, and the birds are really struggling. Now there's rat traps, there's, you know, mongoose traps, they have all of that up there, but we didn't see any of that, but you could see where, you know, the fungus and the rapidohia death and the mosquitoes are definitely affecting these populations. Oh, and Dave is going to play the call for the akakiki. Now, this bird was not calling, he was just chipping, but it was definitely a different chip. And we had a friend with us who is also a guide, and she heard it and immediately knew what it was and was able to get us on this bird. So it was an awesome experience. I mean, I have to say, to see a bird that you know you probably will never see again in the wild is a very emotional experience. It's probably my best birding experience of my life was seeing that bird. But if you can't make it up the Mohihi Trail, you can do the Pu'u'o'o Kaila lookout on Kauai. And this is a natural native habitat that is a road. And so they've blocked off the road, you park and you can walk on the road, and you're able to get the Kauai Amaki'i, the Kauai Elapaio, and the Anianiao. And these are all pictures that we took off of that road. So we had good views. There was a good number of them. Easy trip, no hills, no slimy mud, no streams up to your waist. It's definitely the place to go get them. Now, it's you know, you still have to really look. They're not like dripping off the trees, but they are there. Sea watching at Port Allen. Dave had seen where people were seeing Newell's shearwater off of Port Allen. So we took a scope, and the time to go is April to early October. We were there in September when we did this. And this is what you hope to see, right? This is the Newell's shearwater. This is the look everybody wants. But when you're standing on shore and you're looking through a 95 Swarovski scope, this is what you actually see. So not quite what we had hoped for. So the next year, we decided that we wanted to see these birds a little better. So we chartered a boat and a captain, and he took us out into the area where these birds are at, and we were able to get the picture that you see up there at the top. So much better pictures. But if you don't have the ability to hire a private charter, we had 6 of us that all shared in the price, and it was a little tiny boat, and I don't know if I'd recommend it.
It was rough.
It was really rough. So a friend of ours had recommended that you do the snorkel trip to Niihau. So there's this big catamaran that they take people snorkeling, and they go right out into the same area, and you can get pictures of the Newell shearwaters through that. So probably a much better option for people to do. One of our favorite places on Kauai is the Kilauea Lighthouse. And this is the view that I took of what you're looking at as you're standing at the entrance to the grounds. So you can bird right from the entrance to the grounds. And it's a good thing that you can, because this is a national wildlife refuge that keeps the craziest hours of any national wildlife refuge I've ever seen. They close 2 days early because the holiday is going to be in 2 days. They closed for COVID. It's all outside. Why did we need to close for COVID? They close for restoration work. They close, I mean, every time you turn around, they're closed. So you can bird from the top, which is where I took this picture, but ideally you want to be down by the lighthouse, because the lighthouse is where you get the views of the birds. The best views. You're going to have white-tailed tropic bird flying over on the cliff where you're standing. Red-footed boobies by the hundreds, all over the cliffs, flying right in over top of you, nesting, amazing. Great frigate bird is there. Not magnificent frigate bird, but the great frigate birds are there. And this was taken down there by the lighthouse, where the bird was like at eye level with me, out off the cliff. But this is really why we went, because I wanted really good pictures of red-tailed tropic birds. You don't get these views anywhere else. When you're down there by the lighthouse, they're flying right in front of you. It's amazing. So really awesome place to go. Not too far from there, well, also on the grounds, they have the Hawaiian goose or the nene. They're everywhere. And on the grounds of the lighthouse, and also you're going to find them at the Kauai Honolulu National Wildlife Refuge, which isn't too far from the lighthouse. They have Hawaiian coot and Hawaiian duck there. Not the most superstar birds. They don't look a whole lot different than our coot or our mallard or mottled ducks, but they are Hawaiian species, and they do count on your checklist for those of you who are mad listers like we are. They, in the neighborhood not too far from this same location, November through July, lace and albatross nest in people's yards. So you'll get to see, if you see the video there, you can see the lace and albatross kind of, interacting with one another. You'll get to see great big old eggs and them, sitting on their eggs. And they do this right in a neighborhood with people's houses. So like this was right next to somebody's driveway and front door. So really great time to go, November through July.
If we could only tell you to bird one island, hands down, it's the Big Island. This is an incredible place to bird. And in particular, Hakalau National Wildlife Refuge, the Pu'u'o'o Trail, the Palila Discovery Trail. Kona is well known for its pelagics. And then a place that we have not been yet, but I'm going to talk about, is Keokea State Park. A lot of my friends have done sea watches there, and in particular later in the year, and they're getting some really good pelagic birds there. So let's kind of dive in and talk a little bit about this. First of all, Hakalau. If there's one island you could go to, it's the Big Island. If there's only one place you could go to, it's Hakalau. And like Tammy said, most of the places the birds are not dripping off the trees, except in Hakalau. This is the most pristine montane tropical rainforest habitat left in Hawaii. It is truly just an incredible habitat where the koa trees, the ohia trees, they're all just doing fantastic. And consequently, the native bird population, the endemics, are all doing fantastic there also. The problem is that you have to have a permitted guide to get into the park, and the permitted guide is only allowed to take so many people per year. And I think there's only three permitted guides that I'm aware of that are actually able to actually go in here. But it's worth every penny. If you're going to fly all the way out to Hawaii, it's worth every penny to get into here. First of all, to see the ama'o. It's a chunky, plump thrush that you hear them more than you see them. But inside Hakalau, very easy, bird to get in Hakalau. The Hawaiian hawk actually covers a large chunk of the Big Island that you can see it in. But again, easiest place to find a Hawaiian hawk, we typically, almost always get them in Hakalau. So again, easy place to see one there. Obviously, the EEV, again, the bird that we talked about over on Maui. This is a great place to see EEV. There are a lot of them up here on the side of the mountain. You can get some really great views of them. They're singing up there. It's just, like I said, fantastic place to see this bird. You've got the Hawaii Elepaio and the Hawaii Amakihi in here too. Decent population of Elepaio still in Hakalau. The Hawaii Amakihi, I went through and actually, just out of curiosity this afternoon, I pulled the data of our last, we've made 3 trips into Hakalau. The first trip, we had 18 Hawaii Amakihis. The second trip, we had 45. And the third trip, we had 32. The Hawaii Amakihi in Hakalau is doing fantastic. Again, great place to see the Amakihi. The Akia Palau, or as a lot of the locals call it, the Aki for short, it is really, again, one of those birds that kind of fills the woodpecker niche. And if you look, you'll see the top bill has this big curve on it. And it's the funniest bird when you see them. They just go to town ripping at the bark of trees. And we've actually got photos. There's only so many photos we can put up here for you guys, but we got photos where the bark is just like flying off the tree. And it's like, how can he have like so many pieces of bark flying in one photograph? But I mean, they just go to town like a woodpecker, chipping away at the tree looking for their food. So again, really, really cool bird. A Hawaii creeper, again, a fantastic bird. Typically when you find them in Hakalau, you usually find the family. There are usually multiple birds in a tree, all sitting there eating. So again, best place to see either of these 2 birds is in Hakalau. But the real bird of Hakalau, because you're not going to get it anywhere else in the world, is the Hawaii Akepa. We've got a male on the left, female on the right. These are tiny little honey creepers, 4.5 inches long. Again, just, stunning little bird. And again, only place you're going to see it is in Hakalau. So this is why you want to go to Hakalau. Now, again, for some people, and what's interesting about Hakalau, last time we were there, which was September last year, we actually ran into one of the biologists there and immediately started, talking to the biologist and kind of picking her brain. And she was mentioning an interesting thing to me, that they're going through and rating all of the different parks in Hawaii on a scale of like 0 to 100. And what they're thinking about doing is starting to maybe, and again, this is a big maybe, so take everything I say now with a grain of salt. But they're talking about potentially saying, all right, we've got these akakiki that we've pulled out of the wild off of Maui. We've got them in captivity. If we can breed them, expand the population, maybe we don't re-release them in Maui. Maybe we release them on the Big Island where they have more elevation to go up and they can be more protected, especially if we can get the mosquito population down, they might do better. And Hakalau consistently rates as one of the top locations in Hawaii for re-releasing birds. So again, it's kind of interesting to see that they're kind of thinking about these different things, you know, as to how they might re-release some of these birds later down the road, because they tried re-releasing some Maui parrotbills back onto Maui, and within 30 to 60 days, I heard they were all dead. So literally, you know, like years of breeding and everything like that, out the door in a very, very brief time period, which is why it's so important to get the mosquito population down, but also have a plan B too, which again, it's possible down the road that Hakalau, because it's a higher elevation location and has even higher elevation that they can go up, it's possible that we could actually have new rarities released into Hakalau, making it even more special. But not everybody can arrange to get into Hakalau, either because of timing, or maybe because the guides are all booked up, or maybe it's just financially prohibitive. And if that's the case, we've got a place called the Pu'u'o'o Trail. We've birded the Pu'u'o'o Trail several times. It's basically a lava trail. You can see Tammy walking down it. There's a little elevation up and down, nothing, you know, nothing huge. And again, there's no mud that you're sliding on because it's all lava rock that you're walking on. But again, a fantastic place to bird. You're going to get lots of EEVs there. You're going to get apapanes there. You're going to go ahead and if you work hard and you kind of learn the calls, you can get the Akia Pulau there. One time we did have a Hawaii creeper way back in. That's a long shot, and the Akepa is basically off the table. But everything else you can potentially get in here, and you can do this on your own. So again, we actually did a pelagic one time, got back to shore at like 3:30, and she and I were still ready to go. So we hopped in the car, drove like an hour and a half, got up there, and actually found, you know, a whole bunch of birds, including an Akia Pulau. And our guide the next morning was like, "When did you do that?" I was like, "After we got back from the pelagic." So again, fantastic place. You can bird it on your own. And there's also a fair amount of exotics up in there too. So it's just, you know, it's a fun place to bird, and it's easy to bird. The Palila. Palila is an interesting bird in that most of the other birds we've kind of talked about tend to be more on the wet side of the island in rainforest. The Palila tends to be more on the dry side of the island, and it associates with mamame trees, which are its primary food. And again, this is around the Palila Discovery Trail area on the map that we showed. These photos were taken in 2019. We had 5 of them. In 2022, we went back, saw 0. 2023, we went back, saw 0. 2024, we went back, saw 0. So we have not had great luck the last couple of years. The population has been basically plummeting. And again, this is a graph going through 2022, where you can see in 2000, the population was estimated in the neighborhood of around 6,000. The current estimates are probably in the neighborhood of maybe 100, 200 that are left. So in 25 years, we've gone from 6,000, 7,000 to 100, 200. And this is what's fascinating to me. Because, you know, again, when we talk about a lot of the birds, what's happened to them, you know, you think of rats, cats, and mongoose. You think of, rapidohea death from the fungus. You think about avian malaria. This is a little bit different with the Palila. This was their original range on the Big Island. They covered a large chunk of it. Now the yellow is their current range. And when you go to the Palila Discovery Trail, you walk a couple hundred yards, you come to a fence and you look out and all you see is cleared pasture and goats. So this is one, and again, I'm not a biologist, I'm not an expert, but it looks like to me that the locals have basically just kind of cleared out the property and they've moved goats in. And last couple of years we were there, they were in a real drought, so the mamame trees were not doing well. And again, I think that the birds were scattering, trying to find some viable mamame trees that they could feed on. Now, the bright side, and this was very, very pleasant surprise. A couple hours ago, I thought, let me just see, is anybody actually even seeing any? And over the last month, there have been quite a few reports. Normally, this is the range that we've been getting them in. Over here, they've been reporting them on, I think it's H12 trail. And one guy reported as many as 11 in the last 30 days. So maybe the mamame trees are starting to maybe do a little bit better, which is maybe helping, the Palila do a little bit better. And again, slight sign of encouragement that maybe the Palila are doing better. So again, we'll, stay tuned and we'll see. Other birds that you tend to see as you're driving up, whether you're going to the Palila Discovery Trail, Hakalau, or to the Pu'u'o'o Trail, you're leaving usually early in the morning, you're going to see these short-eared owls flying over the fields out there. Really cool just to sit there and have 3, 4, 5, 6 of them on your way up to these other places. Like, oh, there's another one, there's another one. And again, take it with a huge grain of salt, but for listers, I have heard that there is a possibility that one day these could be split off as a separate species from that. Again, that could have been from a wishful lister that told me that, but that's what I heard. So again, who knows? Maybe they will never be split. Maybe one day they will be split. Nevertheless, it's always cool to see short-eared owls. Off of Kona, Kona is sheltered. The way the trade winds come in, Mauna Kea goes ahead and shelters and blocks a lot of that wind, making the seas relatively calmer, using the word relatively there, than a lot of other areas. And again, this is our trail tracker that I made for one of our pelagics. And as with all of the birds that do migrate, you always want to go ahead and figure out what your targets are and look at the eBird bar charts to make sure that you're going at the right time of the year to see them, because they're not, all birds are not there all the time. Bulwer's petrel as an example. But again, as we did this pelagic trip, again, Bulwer's petrel is always a key target for us because, again, in the U.S., this is really, for all practical purposes, the main place you're going to get one. And again, fairly easy to get at the right time of the year. Hawaiian petrel, off of California, we've seen, a fair amount of Hawaiian petrel. I think on Debbie Shearwater's website, she still has my Hawaiian petrel picture up on there. But off of Hawaii on a pelagic, you get one every half hour, every hour. Again, because it's a Hawaiian petrel in Hawaii. That's where they're supposed to be. Wedge-tailed shearwaters, again, rare off of the West Coast, off of Hawaii. I mean, hundreds of them. I mean, they're just all over the place. These are some of the main birds that you typically tend to see. Obviously, there are a lot of other birds that you get, but they're kind of one-offs. We wanted to kind of hit on some of the key ones that you get, on a Kona pelagic. Black noddy. Again, we're from Florida. We go to the Tortugas every year. We get a black noddy in the Tortugas. But if you've never been to the Tortugas and you go there, black noddies are fairly common, extremely common there. And red-footed boobies, everywhere you go, there's tons of red-footed boobies in Hawaii. Kokea Beach Park. Again, this is an area that we have not gone to, but I guarantee you next time we go, we're going to spend some time here. And if you just kind of look in that September into early November time period, mottled petrel, which would be a lifer for us, seems to be fairly abundant. Juan Fernandez petrels tend to be pretty good in September, August, September. Hawaiian petrels, you can go ahead and get those from shore. So again, if you don't have a group or have the money to go ahead and go out on a pelagic, then this would be a place that I would highly recommend that you try. I've had a couple friends go there and they've had fantastic success. I've seen everything, even black-winged petrels and stuff like that being reported from here. So it's a spot that I can guarantee that we will try during that time period to try and pick up, in particular, a mottled petrel. Now, Hawaii is the extinction capital of the world. I also think it's the exotic capital of the world. They have a ton of exotics. And again, we wanted to kind of hit on some of the exotics that aren't as common or not at all common in the lower 48. And again, we've got the chestnut-bellied sand grouse that you can get on the Big Island. It's predominantly at a skateboard park over about an hour away, 45 minutes away from Kona. And you just go out there and look in the field, and they're just sitting there, and they blend in so well. And sometimes you sit, oh, they're not here. Oh, wait, no, there he is. I just saw him move. Because they just blend in with the grass so well. Java sparrows are just really cute. And again, on most of the islands, red avidabbit is just a stunning bird. African silverbill, not as stunning, but again, still a countable ABA bird. Common waxbill, I guess the easiest thing to say about that is they are common. And you will sometimes see 40, 50, 60 of them, like at Kapiolani Park. They'll just like cover the lawn over at that park. Japanese bush warblers, a little bit tougher. You got to look for them. You got to really kind of hunt for them. But you can get them. Never in quantity. I mean, if we get 2 or 3 on a trip, I would say we're doing pretty good. Last year we only got 1. Red-billed Leothrix, again, really cool bird. Once you hear the song, you can zone in on them. They're on a lot of the islands. Again, really cool bird. Kalige pheasant, again, a nice exotic bird that is pretty cool. Usually you don't get too good of looks. They see you and they take off running. Eurasian skylark, again, on your way into Hakalau, they'll usually stop and you'll usually pick up a Eurasian skylark on the way in. The wame is a really skittish bird, kind of acts very thrush-like, kind of hides a lot. It doesn't like to come out. So seeing him in the open like that picture doesn't happen a lot, but you hear him all the time. Chestnut munya, again, similar to scaly-breasted munya. You see him out in soccer fields and stuff like that, just covering the lawn. White rump shama, really a pretty bird, does a lot of singing. Again, one of those that predominantly we always tend to find that in Kauai. It tends to be pretty skittish too. It sees you and it takes off. Saffron finch, great bird to get at any airport. They're at all the airports and pretty much any of the major parks and stuff like that, you're going to find it. The greater necklace laughing thrush, this is a tough bird. There's basically one park on Kauai called Nunu, and you basically just have to go through, listen for them, track them down, find them. They're a big bird. I mean, they're like this big, but they're not easy to necessarily see. They're pretty skulky, skittish, but every now and then, you can get them out in the open and snap a picture or two real quick. Yellow-billed cardinals, that's the cardinal du jour of the Big Island, where red-crested cardinal is the cardinal du jour of the other islands. So again, if you hit at least 2 islands, you can pick up the yellow-billed and the red-crested cardinal. Obviously, very, very pretty bird. But, again, run down to Kapiolani Park in Honolulu and you'll get, half a dozen red-crested cardinals there. You'll get yellow-billed cardinals throughout, the Big Island. Yellow-fronted canaries on a lot of the island. Common myna. And I know, we've got common myna here, but I put that in there just to state I'm amazed at how many common myna are in Hawaii. everywhere. I mean, they are just probably one of the most popular, populated birds in all of Hawaii. Used to have spotted doves not far from here. Now they're kind of hard to get unless you go out to the island, or I guess there's still maybe one or two up in Bakersfield. But in Hawaii, tons of spotted dove and zebra dove are everywhere. And then what I like to call the chickens. I love tracking down the chickens. We've got the gray Franklin up in the top right. This used to be the Urkel's Franklin, and they changed it to Urkel's Spurfowl like 2 years ago. And then the black Franklin. The black Franklin is by far the hardest to get, but it's on a couple islands. And again, you put a little bit of effort in and you can pick it up. Which then, for those that are listers in the group, if you had kind of noticed, they added lavender waxbill to the ABA checklist. Again, really pretty little bird, gray and with a red tail. And they added Tannenbar Corella to the provisional list A. So these are now countable birds, if you're a lister like we are, that you can now target in Hawaii.
So there are definitely benefits to hiring a guide in Hawaii. You can go out in a group, and if that's your thing, it's probably the most reasonable way to bird is to go with like the Wings Tour, Wild Side, one of those. You could try to do it yourself, which would be even more economical, I suppose, but the chance of you getting some of these endemics and even some of the exotics that are in very small locations, kind of hard to find. So, hiring a guide is definitely the best way to at least do Hawaii one time. They can arrange for pelagics and things like that for you. There are 3 or 4 guides in Hawaii. We use Mandy Talpas because she's become a friend after all these years, but there are several guides in Hawaii that can get you into Hakalau and help you have a wonderful trip. But probably Hawaii, the one thing that Hawaii has that nowhere else in the United States has, and that's that you can celebrate at the end of your birding trip with a luau.
So with
And
that,
that's it.
we'd like to open up for any questions on any topic.
About the avian malaria and the attempt to knock it out by dumping all these male mosquitoes, is the idea that eventually they won't have to do that anymore, or is it something that we're going to have to keep doing forever?
I don't know if they really know. And the question is, with the avian malaria, if they keep dumping male Wolbachia mosquitoes out there, will we eventually get to a point where there's no mosquitoes left? And my gut feeling is there will always be mosquitoes because we will always have cruise ships coming in. So I don't think if you're flying in there that they're in your suitcase. I think they're probably coming on the ships. And again, they probably came over on the early ships with, Captain Cook and all of the early explorers. So again, my gut feeling is this is going to be something that is not going to necessarily disappear. They will continue probably to have to do it. However, they may be able to scale back substantially, cutting down on the cost. That would be my wild guess. Other questions? I think, and again,
Well, I mean, a lot of them, they say, or were people's pets that they've let loose or came over on ships, kind of like what they're saying our cattle tyrant did, only maybe I would assume they came over in quantity in order to reproduce like they have. So I think it's kind of a combination. I know like just there's ginger plants all over the islands and someone told me, a local told me that, you know, they would put those in people's front yards as decorative landscaping, and they just went crazy on the island, and now they're all the way up at high elevation in the forest. So, you know, kind of the same concept, I think.
Yeah, I think actually some of the things that I've heard, and as you go hiking through some of these places, like in Nunu, there are some of these trees that are from Asia. And there were people that brought them over because they missed their trees, you know, when they moved over. And I think it was the same thing with a lot of the birds, because when you look at a lot of these birds, again, I think that people missed them, so they brought them over. Kind of like what happened with the Eurasian tree sparrow. You know, people, you know, moved into the St. Louis area back in the late 1800s and said, you know what, there's just not enough birds around here. Let's import some Eurasian tree sparrows. And here we are, you know, 150 years later, and now they've multiplied and spread. And I think that's really what's kind of happened here, is that you've got a lot of people that, you know, in particular, it's kind of interesting to me that you've got a lot of Asians that have migrated to Hawaii, and there's a lot of Asian birds that have gone there. Now, there are also mainland birds that have been taken over there too. You know, things like western meadowlark and cardinal are not native to Hawaii.
Northern.
Yeah, northern cardinal. So how did they get there? Well, somebody missed them and brought them over.
Or on a ship.
Yeah, I never heard of a cardinal hopping on a ship, or a western meadowlark hopping on a ship, or a California quail. You know, so again, I think what's happened is, you know, people just, now some of them, you know, like the chickens, those were brought over for game. And I didn't show it because, you know, but, you know, they're a chucker on the Big Island. And I didn't show it because we just got chucker 2 hours from here a couple days ago. So, you know, again, not a big deal. But the idea is, you know, the Franklin, the spur fowl, the chucker, they were brought in there for hunting. So some of them are brought in for hunting. But why are there, you know, yellow-billed cardinal there? Probably somebody missed it and either bought it as a pet, or, you know, or just brought some in and released them in his yard, hoping they would kind of hang out in the yard.
One of the most interesting things I've seen in LA is I don't know where the people from, but Asian people are doing like a bird like competitions with like singing. So they have, I've seen like laughing thrushes, shamas, white eyes, you know, a bunch of the birds that you're seeing here, right? Also be like in little cages in parks and like.
Okay, so basically he's
about
saying that he's seen competitions where they bring birds in cages to sing. This is huge down in Miami, Florida, where you get a lot of the Latinos that will go ahead and show up at
80 Barns.
80 Barns Park on the weekend. They have all their birds in cages. And we have gone into 80 Barns and we've seen all the cages line up, and they have singing competitions. What I haven't seen, but what we've heard, is that if the bird doesn't perform, they open the door, get out of here. You know, we don't want you. I mean, you're no good. You know, so, and again, I think, you know, there could be merit to that where you have these singing competitions down there, and, you know, if your bird doesn't perform, you're out of here. We're not going to keep feeding you. Other questions?
I didn't see it. No, there's nothing online. I'd be happy to ask you. Tell us where you're going next. Where are you going in the next few weeks?
Going on a chicken run
In
a week.
yeah, 2 Fridays from now, we will be going to. Well, we're going to actually fly into Kansas, so we can get our, and then we're going to drive an hour and a half west to get our Smith's Longspur. Then we drive, I think, probably going to get this wrong, but 4 hours further west to get our lesser prairie chicken. We will get greater prairie chicken too, but we actually already have greater prairie chicken in February from Wisconsin. And then we're going to get the
We're going to get Gunnison
Gunnison sage
grouse
grouse and greater sage
greater
grouse.
sage grouse in Colorado.
Yeah.
Back.
Then we come back home, then April 3rd, we'll be in South Texas to get the black-capped chickadee, the golden cheek warbler. We got 2 birds that we dipped on in January, a groove-billed Annie and a red-billed pigeon that we're going to try and pick up down on the Rio Grande. And then we'll work our way up. And ultimately then late April, we'll be working High Island.
I have a question related to, ABA listing. When it was kind of first suggested that Hawaii should ABA, there was a lot of kind of listers who were like a little bit up in arms about the idea of adding Hawaii. Because it was kind of like, well, now you're not comparing kind of, you're comparing apples to oranges and all of these like that. So obviously you've kind of taken to Hawaii.
Well, so the question was how, that adding Hawaii to the ABA, how do we feel about it? Some people weren't very happy about it because of comparing apples to oranges kind of thing. We had just started, we've only been birding now 12 years. So we didn't have this long history of seriously birding and a huge list when this started. So for us, that didn't play in. But honestly, every year they're changing birds that are on the list. They're adding birds, they're taking birds away. So you're never comparing apples to apples, ever, in my opinion. And everybody who does a big year does it under different circumstances. Some people have money and can afford to fly places. Some people have to work full time like we do while we're traveling, but we get to do it together. So, it helps with driving and that kind of thing. Some people have to do it by themselves and sleep in their car. So there's never a big year, in my opinion, that is the same, that you can say, well, I did better than you did in your big year, because everybody's big year is different. And there's no fair comparison. So I don't think that's even a valid point. But I think it's important that Hawaii was added, because it's made it to where we are now letting people know what's going on in Hawaii. Did anybody even know that we were losing all of these birds? I mean, I was there in 1987.
Yeah, was it
1987, and I would have been able to see an o'o. But now that bird is extinct. And so, and who knew? I never heard of such a thing. So I think it's great that it's a part of the ABA, and because I think it's important that we have the information out there that these birds are disappearing, that we need to do something, that we need to do something in Hawaii to make a difference. So that's just my opinion.
Which, again, actually, I want to just add on to that real quick. Again, completely agree with everything she said. But I always sat there and wondered, the American Birding Association, and again, I was on the board, for several years with the ABA. Isn't Mexico in America? Isn't Puerto Rico in America? They vote. So, I mean, to me, if I was king for a day, I would throw in Mexico and I would throw in Puerto Rico and make it basically a North American, competition. And, even today, when you look at big year listing, and there's a guy named Joe Lill that tracks all of big year rules and everything and all the records. He goes ahead and he breaks it out. The new ABA, Continental ABA, which is the old ABA, and Lower 48 ABA. So, to me, you still have different classifications. So you can still do the old apples and apples comparison. But like Tammy said, the birds are continually changing. Last year, we went ahead and we added like 20 new birds to the list, which kind of, skewed everything to begin with.
And now we have eBird versus back when they had to make phone calls to find out if there was a rate.
Greg Miller.
He did it. I can't imagine getting as many birds as he did without eBird. That is Amazing.
Technology
Yeah.
is a huge game changer for a lister. I mean, I can't tell you how many times again, we wanted to go get a Bell's Vireo today. And, I pull up eBird, oh, he's got the GPS coordinate in there. And we found the Bell's Vireo within 50 feet of the GPS coordinate today. So again, technology has drastically changed. So you can't compare somebody who did a big year in 98 versus somebody who's doing it in 2025. It's just not a fair comparison.
I'm just gonna ask you in Fort Myers, you said?
Mhm.
Have you always lived in Florida, or is it something you chose just for birds?
No.
Yes, Florida is a phenomenal place to bird.
You just got lucky.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But actually, we were both born in Ohio,
in separate locations.
separate locations. But we both, I moved down in second grade because of my parents, obviously. And she moved down in high school. We met in high school. And started dating in high school, got married afterwards. So we for all practical purposes, we're Florida natives. So it just happened to be a coincidence. And for a big year birder, if you're going to do an ABA big year, a North America big year, an AOU big year, which those are the two big years that we're really getting into right now, are North America and AOU, which we've been number one in both of those last 3 years. If you live in Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, you got a leg up on again, in the US, it's considered to be, a good big year if you're over 700 birds. We can potentially, in a good year, get 150 birds in our yard.
Yeah.
We can get 250 birds in our county. So again, and our county is not like the counties y'all
Not
have.
Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
What's the refuges you go to?
In Lee County, Flint Pen is probably the best place. It's a relatively new county park. You can go in there in the wintertime and pick up 80, 85, maybe 90 birds. That is probably the best place. I love Harns Marsh. Great place in Lee County to bird.
Unfortunately, hurricanes have decimated Ding Darling Refuge on Sanibel. So.
And we've never been a huge Ding Darling fan. It truthfully, I think it's overrated. I hope nobody from Ding is watching.
It's for water birds and,
If you want to go see egrets and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's great.
Together, how
Ah,
so
interesting.
they asked
It
how
was
we got into birding.
the way we got into birding, and again, in high school, I was into birding, had a Peterson field guide, went out with a friend. We tried to see actually how many birds we could photograph.
When my grandmother passed away, and I had forgotten I did this, but she had one of those golden book field guides. And as a child, I would sit on her couch and look out her picture window, and I took in crayon, and in her book, you can see my crayon where I checked the birds that I was seeing in her front yard. So I was a lister when all I could use was crayons. So.
But what happened was in 2012, the movie The Big Year came on TV. I remember when it came out in the theater, it's like, I think I would like to see that. And then life happened and we never saw it. Because our entire life, we've always traveled to parks, national parks, and we would target, we would go to Glacier National Park and we would target, we want to see a bear, we want to see a moose, we want to go ahead and see a white-tailed ptarmigan in the park. So even in 1992, we wanted to see a white-tailed ptarmigan just because we thought it would be cool to see. So the movie came out, and the whole concept of listing, to me, it was like, this is a scavenger hunt that you can do for the entire year. This is incredible. This was just right up my alley of what I love to do. I love a challenge. So we started off small, and we did a 3-day weekend, big weekend. And then we started doing county big years. And then we graduated to doing Florida big years. And then we started, you know, kind of really getting active in the lower 48 when we realized, wait, we're traveling to see clients all over the country. They always want to see us for dinner, sometimes lunch, never for breakfast. That's the cheapest meal of the day. So, you know, again, we would work in the afternoon and evening, and we would bird in the morning when we would travel around. So it's like we started doing these lower 48s, and we were getting consistently, you know, for several years, we were in the 600s in the lower 48. And in 2019, we made the plunge and decided, you know what, we're going to go to Alaska, and we're going to get over 700. And
I don't know if for any of you listeners or, you know, people who travel around, but there was this couple, Dick and Gailey Dean, and they were big year listers, and they had 3 years over 700.
they were our mentors.
And they were our mentors, and they were so helpful and so sweet. They're a retired couple. And, you know, we were like, well, we'd like to try to get as many birds as possible. How do we do this? And she literally said, here is my eBird password. Log on and take whatever information you need. I mean, that's awesome.
I
And
mean, she would
so-
sit there and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? She said, are you at the point yet where you're laying in bed and you're going through your list of birds that you still need, and what's the game plan for how you're going to get them? And it's like, I am.
So they were very helpful and instrumental in kind of like showing us the ropes. And we would run into them on pelagics or at rare bird chases. And so they really helped us a lot. So
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, it just got to the point where, you know, after we did that, you know, after we saw the movie, we enjoyed doing it so much.
and it's something we enjoy, obviously, equally. We enjoy different aspects of it. Like I really love trying to get that little bird on my camera, and finding the bird. And he enjoys all the statistics and
I never
all
met a
the-
bar chart I didn't love.
and you know, trying to research where to go to get the bird. And, you know, he really loves that part of it. So, and I book all of the hotels. I make a game out of trying to use the points to get free rooms and, you know,
She's
cheap
phenomenal at
flights
it.
and upgrades. And so that's kind of the game that I play with myself to try to save money and see how cheap I can go do something. So, between the two of us, we like different things, and it just kind of works. So.
Yeah, nobody's buying
Now, ironically,
It's
last
actually-
week we were in Arizona at Patagonia Lake State Park, and I kid you not,
Scariest thing.
she had a skunk chase her around a bench 3 times until she hopped up on the bench. And it
I'm
kept
taking
nipping.
a picture of this cute little skunk bopping down the trail, and all of a sudden it looked at me.
So if you see her hop on a chair, you know why.
And I thought, it is going to spray me. I just know it is. And it was down around my feet and was chewing at my shoes. And I'm running around this bench trying to avoid it. And it was very scary. I thought I was going to get sprayed.
So ma'am, is it coming in?
Oh, please no.
Yeah.
So we're taking a skunk intermission. Oh, there he goes. He's going by.
Thank goodness.
Did you have a question? The skunk.
What's like your favorite under the radar kind of like spot people don't go congregate at?
Like
Can it be anywhere? Okay.
ADAC,
Well,
that's one.
it,
We love to bird on ADAC. And hardly, where is our favorite secret spot that's not a real popular birding spot? First of all, Alaska, hands down, is my favorite place to bird, period. I love it. I love the pelagics. I love being out in the wilderness and being away from, you know, everything. And
you never know what, I mean, literally every day, a new rarity could come in.
yeah.
So in the US,
life
in the
is
US, it's definitely Alaska. A little advertisement. Outside of the US, Canopy Camp. We love Canopy Camp in Panama. And on April 14th, we will be live streaming a talk on birding Panama through the Sarasota Audubon. In Canopy Camp, we made our first trip down there in December to finish off our AOU North America Big Year last year.
And I think it's the least popular
of the Panamanian
the
birding
canopy
locations.
trips. And I don't know why, because, I mean, not that it's not popular, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that is a
Amazing.
place that is just off the charts, crazy good.
But I don't know, like in the lower 48, a place that we bird that's kind of
Off
just,
the radar.
I mean, for us, it's all about listing. So and we work. So a lot of times we go, we get the bird and we move on, where I would love, I'm so jealous of everybody who gets to sit and like enjoy the birds along the way and casually, take a stroll. And we're not doing that. But I mean, we have the choice. We could give up listing, but we can't do that because we're like
I'm addicted.
So, but I don't know, an out of the way spot.
And nothing really comes to mind that I would say. I mean, again, ADAC would probably be the closest. A lot of people don't really go to ADAC very often, and it's just kind of like I said, it's an out of the way place. Usually, you'll pick up a few decent birds there every year. Occasionally, some decent rarities. It's not of the magnitude of a Gamble or St. Paul, or definitely Attu if that was still open.
It's just a really cool place to go. It's so different.
Yeah, it's just a very different place. And again, the sea watching there off the Loran Sea Station is
and the
pretty
pelagic
crazy.
that we take, we're surrounded by
10,000 whiskered
10,000
auklets.
whiskered auklets.
Yeah.
So you don't get that just anywhere.
Yeah, that's a cool
I mean,
place.
not that this is an out of the way place, but Santa Margarita Ranch in Texas is just a great
Has everybody been
place
down there
to-
yet? Who has not been to Santa Margarita?
Oh, it's fabulous.
so-
I mean, you can get 100 and
You can get 100, 105 birds there on a good day.
yeah, and I mean, it's really, you feel like you're in old Texas. It's
Now, what
really
you got to
cool.
do though is you got to go. First of all, you got to book a reservation, and reach out to us. We'll get you who to email. But you go ahead and you book a day trip, and you book a night trip. Right now, they have the only mottled owl in the U.S. So we've had it 3 years in a row now at Santa Margarita Ranch. And while you're there, we had common paraki flying literally 5 feet away from us. You'll get
We've had it every time.
during the daytime you'll get hook-billed kite, which is a code 3 bird. Usually you'll get rose-throated Picard, code 3 bird. You usually will go ahead and get red-billed pigeon, which is a pretty good bird. Only place in the U.S. to get brown jay. Again, they're breeding on location there. There's 7 of them now. Again, you just, you got Morelet seed eater there, code 3 bird. You walk away with a whole bunch of coded birds in a day. I mean, and they had the bare-throated tiger heron. We literally I think it was last year, we literally had just sat down in our plane to fly home when we got a phone call that they had found a bare-throated tiger heron, which was really painful, knowing that we were belted in and they had just locked the door of the plane. We literally flew back a week later to get the bare-throated tiger heron. But I mean, again, Santa Margarita Ranch.
And yes, we are going for the Stone Chat on Sunday. So.
Yes. We got in. Yeah. 10 a.m. on Sunday, there is an AMUR, AMUR Stone Chat in what used to be called Anahuac National Wildlife Refuge. It's now named
been
after,
since November.
a young
but
lady.
because of hunting season, they kept it quiet and now they've opened it up for, a couple trips a week. And you have to have fast fingers and
she
Yeah.
had I didn't even have my phone number typed in and she had already gotten
This work.
accepted.
And-
They're taking 5 cars?
5 cars with 5 people in each car, I think, or 6.
So I'm
cars.
lucky she's gonna allow me to be one of the people in the car.
Maybe.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
The folks at home, thank you so much for coming, and then we'll be back in April. We're not sure if it's gonna be just on Zoom or in person, or obviously probably both if we do it in person. But thank you so much, and we'll let you know soon. All right, good night.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah. Are we still on?